actually don't really know why I'm talking about this because I didn't really think it affected me up until now, but I guess this is what we're diving into this week. Message 9. Is perfection a power? Hey everyone, it's your host Desi here on Unsent Voice Memos, and if you couldn't tell by the title, we are diving into perfection. So, if you just heard my little interlude earlier, which I'm pretty sure you did, I said this has never really affected me before, and to some extent that's true. But I mean more just like in the past couple years, like probably around when I started high school, it stopped affecting me because I started having a different outlook on what perfection is, and that maybe looking for perfection isn't the right thing. I guess I framed it as a superpower to be perfect and just perfection in general. I was like, if you're perfect, it must be like a superpower or something because no one can be perfect, kind of thing. But then I got my report back a couple weeks ago and I didn't do the greatest in like some of my subjects. So then, like, I was disappointed in myself, but also my parents were disappointed in me. They're like, oh, why didn't you do better and all that? Which I guess from their point of view is fair enough. They want me to do well. And then this is like the first time it's happened, I guess, where it's suddenly become, oh, now we just need to make sure you're perfect and you're doing really well and everything. So then I guess I felt like I kind of became a project at this point where I was getting a lot of help from my parents, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like, I have somewhat learned to accept help, and it definitely has helped me improve by getting this help, but I didn't ask for it. So I'm definitely grateful for it. Like, I'm not going to say I'm very ungrateful for this help because I am very grateful. But I think what happened was I suddenly felt dehumanized, like unintentionally. I know that is never their intention. It's not, I don't even know why my brain thought of it actually, why I felt I got dehumanized, but I know it had something to do with losing control. And this is something I've maybe figured out in the past week that for me, I've associated being perfect as in someone who has control, has everything sorted out in their lives. So when I feel like I'm getting help, even though it's not necessarily a bad thing, I still view it as a bad thing because I view it as I'm not in control of my life. And if I'm not in control of my life, how can I like dictate my outcomes and all that? And I can't even like blame myself on things I did because it may not even be my fault or something. It's this whole tangent I go on when it comes to like losing control. And if you know me, you know I really like control, as in, I'm not necessarily a control freak, but I like to make sure everything's in order, everything's going to plan, and I don't like leaving things up to chance, which is part of a reason I think I struggle with change because when there's change, there's nothing in my control, it just happens. And it is definitely something I need to learn, and has been, I've been kind of aware of like the thing I don't adapt to change, but I think again, as I said, like the past week, I realized this is because of the loss of control thing. And I think that is like quite hard for me to lose control and let, I guess, fate decide what happens, which, like, even just talking about it, I'm just like feeling icky. Anyway, I guess back to my report and what happened. So I think I ended up having like an hour conversation on Friday afternoon about what I could do better or why I didn't do good in these subjects. Maybe it was actually like 2 hours. It was a really long conversation that I can't even remember how long it was. And then I think that's when it was decided, okay, so we're gonna do this, this, and this, and we're gonna help you become like an expert, I guess, in these subjects. And I wasn't mad about it because I'm like, yes, I do really want to do well. And I think also at the time, I wasn't really prioritizing anything else but my academics just due to life circumstances. And I wasn't necessarily mad about that, like just prioritizing academics. But then when this whole thing actually started taking shape, I realized, okay, it's actually not me working on something and me trying to practice and get better and all that. It's about them trying to perfect me. And I've kind of used this analogy of a robot to simplify it, I guess. So I'm like this robot, it's a project. So I'm the final project, but I'm also the first prototype. So I'm getting tinkered with and like getting these little bolts adjusted. And then if something doesn't work, I get deassembled and reassembled kind of thing in terms of my knowledge. Yeah, I know that was just like the first analogy I thought of, which was quite odd for me because I am not really a STEM person. But it was weird because usually, like with your first prototype, it is so different from your first project and like I guess your final prototype, you could say. And usually you have like both as like physical copies. It's not really one you go about adjusting like the same prototype to make it like one thing. I actually could be wrong with that, but that's just my vision of it because I did a tiny bit of STEM because my parents really wanted me to, so I did for a bit. And I never really had a prototype and a project that was the same because something would happen to it. And it feels weird being both the prototype and the project, but I guess that is kind of being human. It's such an odd thing, I guess, being a human because there is no such thing as a prototype. You're just the project, but because you experience life for the first time, you're also a prototype. Anyway, again, getting off track with this whole prototype project thing. There's so many P's today, like perfection, progress, prototype, project. Sorry. Anyway, what was I saying? I've forgotten now. That was it, my school report and how now I'm getting help with like some of my subjects. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not mad about it, like, because a couple of my subjects are essay based. So I am like happy because essays have never been my strong suit. So getting help has been quite good for me. But then I've also just felt such a loss in control. And with everything in my life that's happening, having control at the moment for me is such a stability thing in my life. And when you don't have the stability, it's really hard to navigate. So I think another thing, just losing the control. I just don't have that stability, which I really don't like. And maybe it was like back in year eight when I started reframing that I don't need perfection. I just rather need to progress and get better. And I think that really helped change my mindset. And the reason this mindset shift happened was for a couple of reasons. One being academics, one being changing dance studios. So those like the two things why I changed that because now I'm getting like slightly different, but still related. Don't worry. At my old dance studio, being like a part of a competitive team, you are expected to be perfect, and everyone wants that front and center spot because it means you're the star, and it also means that the teacher likes you, or that the teacher like looks at you as the example. And I never really got that in my old studio, so I was always trying to strive for this perfection, trying to be at this front spot, and it really like hindered me, I guess. So then when I moved studios and also stopped thinking about trying to be getting like 100% in everything in academics, it helped me feel better about myself. And then I also started hearing it a lot more that people aren't actually expecting perfection. They're just expecting you to do your best. So I guess your perfection. And I guess for some people that is 100%. So I guess then their like power is perfection. Essentially, like people expect the best of you. So I think that really reframed my mind from thinking that I need to be the best person in the world, which was getting 100% instead of being the best version of myself. So I kind of reframed that around like around year 8 to 10, like it has changed a bit. And then with my report coming back, that was like a whole like thing because now I've started thinking that I need to be this perfect person again. And when I've had so little to focus on except my academics, it's been really hard to actually get a break from perfection. And I know this sounds like I'm not even following my own advice of trying to have a balanced life. Don't worry, I do try. It's just, I think with assessments, it has been really hard for me to find that balanced life and then me still trying to strive for perfection. It's just very overwhelming. And I think it also feels odd because I've had a lot of change in like the past month. And then trying to follow my old advice, it feels a lot harder because of this change. I'm like, well, they didn't account for this change, like my older me. So why should I follow it, even though I know I should? It's so confusing, actually. And I do know I have like gone off on another tangent, so I'm gonna like trying to bring it back. But essentially, Like from year 8 up until recently, I stopped thinking about perfection because it was like hurting me, and I started thinking about just improving and just progressing and getting better and becoming the person I want to be. And then just with this report, for some reason, it's just changed my life. Well, that's a bit extreme actually, but it has changed my outlook on my academics, I guess. Especially because this is the first time where I have gotten like an hour or 2 hours of talking to about my report and what I can do better. And the weird thing was actually, I was never, because I did well in some subjects, I was never praised for what I did well in, which I found kind of odd, I guess, because that was the first thing I thought of. Not, oh, that I did really bad, but that, oh, I did really well in these subjects. And it's quite odd because usually we try to pick out the things that we feel bad about ourselves before we do the good. So I found it quite odd that I actually found the good before the bad, especially because I know so many people don't do that. Even I don't do that on a daily basis. That I try to, like, I find the good before the bad. But I did this time around, and I do more often, I will say. Yeah, so I found that interesting where I found the good before the bad. And I think just hearing all the bad just made me feel really, I guess, bad about myself. Like, there's no other way to explain it because I was just like, oh, I'm not perfect. I'm not in control of my life because if I was in control of my life, I would be perfect. And it's so weird because now I've kind of like associated being in control with perfection, which I've never really done before. And I think part of like being perfect is like not needing feedback. And I know I'm not the only person when it comes to this, but like just receiving feedback can be so hard because the first thing your mind thinks of is, oh, I'm not good enough. And like when you ask for feedback and you hear it, and you don't ask for feedback because you don't want to feel like that. And you also think that you're perfect just in every aspect, which is not right at all because no one's perfect. And I think that has been another reason why I've been struggling, I guess, because of just getting so much feedback all at once that I just am getting everything like nitpicked and tweaked. And it's just like, this is not good enough, this is not good enough, this is not good enough. And all these things just don't make you perfect. So that's essentially it, I think. Just with the perfection, then losing control, and then just all this feedback at the same time. I'm just like, what the heck is happening in my life? And I do question this every day, as I'm sure everyone does. What the heck is happening in my life? But honestly, it's just been affecting me so much more when now I'm only focused on one thing, because before I was focused on other things. Now I'm only focused on like this one thing essentially, and there are like a couple other things in my life. It's not like I'm only just this academic person. But just having this one thing to focus on has made me realize how important having a balance is in life. And I think I might just actually leave the episode on this note. I know it is quite a short episode, like probably one of my shortest ones, excluding my first one, I think. And part of that is because I don't actually know what to say about this topic because it's so complex and there's so many things to it that I've never really thought about until like a couple days ago. And then the other part of it is just I could probably say so much about this. Like I've got so many ideas in my head, but when none of those ideas are clear, it just doesn't make sense to communicate it, and I feel like the meaning gets lost in translation. So that's kind of why I have left this episode quite short. I actually don't really know what to take away from it, from like both me and just like what I usually say, like two things I've gotten from this and like I think you guys should take away. Because there is always something to take away, but I think I have said quite a few important things that I actually can't pick. But I guess if I had to pick one, I would probably say live your best life and not the best life. And just like that change in word, your and the, it makes such a difference because then you're not striving for everyone's perfection, you're striving for your perfection. And that just seems a lot more achievable because I guess the thing is, perfection is a power, but it's a power that everyone can have and not just a power some people possess. Because the thing is, those who possess it, I guess, have cracked life and they've realized, oh, I don't need to strive for everyone's perfection. I just need to strive for my perfection. And if your perfection is the best, then sure. But I don't think anyone's perfection is that, because everyone has different goals and ambitions. And I think that's probably the most important thing, that we all have different goals and ambitions. So why are we trying to strive for everyone's perfection? Because that's so complicated and probably not even a thing. We've just made it a thing. Like, perfection is so irrational, but we just try to rationalize it, and it's not the best thing to do. Like, it depends what you're rationalizing. Like, you can rationalize perfection, but you have to rationalize your perfection, not perfection in general, because that is just so complicated, and just trying to strive for that and achieve that is really unrealistic and probably impossible, actually. Anyway, that was a tiny bit of a tangent, but I think that was actually a really good one and related for once. So that is it for this week's episode. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at Unsent Voice Memos Podcast, and I will be back here next week. So see you guys. I actually don't really know what to say for this outro because I felt like I've said so much and so little. But I guess perfection is just really, really annoying. Message 9 concluded.